Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity for Save Our Beaches San Clemente to update you regarding the dire condition of our coastline, as which you can see in this picture. San Clemente's unique coastal geography with its bordering bluffs, next slide please, and railroad sandwiched between land and sea poses unique challenges for beach preservation and infrastructure protection. Next slide please. The bottom line, and we can't stress this enough, we need immediate and significant action to stem the tide of increased beach erosion in San Clemente. Next slide. There are many parties that influence the state of our beaches, but there are two entities that arguably are the most important in San Clemente, you folks, Coastal Commission, and OCTA. We believe the Commission and OCTA, next slide please, have the potential to be a force for significant good. And by working constructively with these entities, we can advance our sand replenishment and retention objectives in San Clemente. Next slide, please. For most stretches in San Clemente, the OCTA tracks border our beaches within 0 to 150 feet of mean high tide. Next slide, please. So what happens when OCTA's tracks are threatened on the ocean side? Their practice has been to secure an emergency permit and dump riprap on the beach. These rails are not going anywhere soon. We really do need sand and replenishment in our area. Next slide, please. Once the waterline reaches their revetment, recreational potential is eliminated, lateral beach access is prevented, unsafe beach conditions are created, wildlife habitat is destroyed, and no natural sand replenishment or transport can occur. Of San Clemente's 5 miles of coastline, 1.25 miles, or over 25%, is now comprised of massive boulder piles with no dry sand. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is John Dow, and then we're going to follow that with Susie Whitelaw and Lisa Grant on Zoom.
I have a slide presentation. That's not it.
For Dow, Billy? Dow.
Dow. Yeah, it's hard across. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm John Dow with Save Our Beaches San Clemente. OCTA's reactive and mercenary approach to track protection in San Clemente is causing significant permanent beach loss. Next slide. Next slide, please. Our entire coastline will be hard armored if their current methods don't change. Consider these examples of OCTA's egregious behavior. Next slide. From their 2021 plan, the dark lines here indicate the entire rail line in San Clemente is vulnerable. Next slide. To address this vulnerability, their plan is to keep adding boulders, then construct a 15-foot seawall. This would be devastating to our city and our beach. Next slide. Despite touting the rail line's strategic importance, they take no proactive measures to protect it. The result is frequent emergencies, 5 in the last 3 years, all causing service interruptions, and all reacted to with more boulders and no preventative plan. That slide should say February of 2024, by the way. Next slide. Their current 2-year, $2 million study for new solutions wastes time and money, as sand-based solutions should be obvious and they should happen now. Next slide. The revetment and tracks cause beach sand loss. However, OCTA does not add any sand to our beaches, and yet they are happy to free ride on our city sand replenishment project. Next slide. Lastly, it should be unacceptable for a taxpayer-funded entity to destroy public beaches in violation of the Coastal Act when a better option exists. Commissioners, OCTA is a powerful bureaucracy with no accountability to voters. You are the people's voice and must stop their destructive actions. Sandy beaches have historically functioned as a natural ocean buffer and slope stabilizer, protecting their tracks. Therefore, we ask you to work constructively but firmly with OCTA to require their immediate use of sand replenishment and retention solutions to protect their tracks. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie Whitelaw.
Hi, Susie Whitelaw with Save Our Beaches San Clemente. Today, I'm talking about rock. In 2021, OCTA submitted a CDP for placing 18,000 tons of riprap on our beaches. Throughout 2022, they kept dumping rock while submitting incomplete responses, and in 2023, apparently stopped responding but kept on dumping. Next slide. Their own documents indicate that they've spent $8 million on riprap, which is far too much for 18,000 tons. Next slide. Where could they have put it? The permitted area was between the red lines, but you can see an equivalent amount was placed to the south in the foreground. Next slide. To the north, none of this rock is included in the 18,000 tons, and some of it is outside the permitted area. Next slide. And then last week, they kept on dumping rocks on San Clemente State Beach. Next slide. We have previously shown our short-term mitigation plan for the harm that this rock has caused, but we need to go further. Next slide. Our group represents San Clemente, and what we want, we are not asking for the tracks to move inland. We don't think that's going to happen. It's an excuse to allow them to temporarily place rocks on the beach. We accept that OCTA will use rocks to protect their tracks, and we have a choice. Let them place those rocks next to their tracks or convince them to install the rock offshore in an artificial reef, protecting both their tracks and the beach at a much lower cost, financial and environmental cost, than tunneling under the 5. Next slide. A similar design was just moved forward by a collaborative process, including the Coastal Commission at Oceanside. Next slide. The process by which this can be initiated is through OCTA's Coastal Rail Resiliency Study to determine how to stabilize the tracks. Coastal Commission is one of the most important stakeholders in this work, and we respectfully request that the Commission take a proactive approach and participate robustly in this process.
Thank you, Susie. Lisa Grant.
Hi, I'm Lisa Gant, and I am a resident of San Clemente, and I'm here to support the citizens of San Clemente who have formed the Save Our Beaches organization. Recently, San Clemente has suffered catastrophic loss of our beaches. I've stood on the bluffs a few years back and watched as the erosion of South San Clemente beaches caused waves to top the railroad track on the western side. On the eastern side, the tracks had landslides at which caused the bluffs to collapse. Orange County Transit Authority responded with massive dumping of literally tons of enormous boulders along the southernmost coast of San Clemente to protect the tracks. On the east side of the tracks, the bluffs were anchored by OCTA to stop the erosion of the hillside. The beach in this area is gone. The access from North San Clemente to trestles in the sand is gone, and there is no access at all. I am aware that the Commission has an overall stance against coastal armoring. I am also aware the government prioritizes the railroad for national security and other reasons. But there's a certain irony in the fact that OCTA's solution to beach erosion and wave topping of the tracks is armoring the coast with rocks that cause fast and even more devastating erosion. Bringing in sand is not enough. We need to physically retain the sand. I am hopeful that the Commission will recognize that restoring our beaches in innovative ways using sand retention devices will benefit all concerned. OCTA should be required to mitigate the loss of beach. Solutions for the railroad cannot disregard the public enjoyment and access of our beaches. Rather than implementing temporary reactive solutions, the Commission, the railroad, the city, and the public need to work together proactively for long-term solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
I want to make a request. I would love to see a formal, more comprehensive presentation on the work with the low sand rail, the OCTA, and our involvement. I mean, it seems like we continue, and understandably so, continue to give these emergency permits but we need to have a broader discussion in my.
This is an active permit item that will be coming before you. There were emergency permits and we're working on the follow-on CDP right now with OCTA. I was just talking with Carl. We're going to be working on scheduling a meeting with them. So it will be in front of you. I will work on figuring out timing. But I appreciate that it is just listening to the public comment. It is a crisis. So we are, if it's going to take a while, we'll definitely consider bringing an informational presentation to you. But let me suss out the timing first, and then we can figure out the best path forward.
Thank you very much, because we just had the presentation on sea level rise yesterday, and we need to make these hard decisions eventually, right? And I think if the time is right. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks so much. Any other commissioners have any comments? Okay, I have a couple. I just want to completely agree with what Commissioner Aguirre is saying. It's just, it's such a serious situation. Really, every day that goes by, every rock that's placed is another day that beach is being lost. And it's just so important. So I really hope that this will come to the commission as part of CDP, but also to give us an overview of what's going on with the entire line. Because rather than just focus on one part, I think that's what Commissioner's saying, and I think we all agree we really need an overview of that entire area and what the plan is. I know that there was $300 million that went in, I guess it was last year's budget toward beginning to plan, at least for the San Diego section. So anyway, anything you can tell, as soon as that can come to us, it would be great. Also, could you respond to the individual